last, Arizona State is able to celebrate a homecoming victory as they took down the Washington State Cougars 38-27, notching their first Power 5 victory this season. ASU improves to 2-6 on the year. Nick Borgia, Devil's Digest, alongside our publisher Hoder Bino and Hode. This is by far the most complete game that ASU, I feel, has competed in so far this season. What's your initial takeaways?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the 27 points that ASU gave up, and you're thinking, well, this wasn't really that good of a defensive effort compared to what we saw just last week in Seattle. But the defense played outstanding, especially in the second half. And the offense, and we talked about it in the preview, Nick, I think we talked about it really all year long. When we're going to see a balanced offense, running game, and aerial attack by the Sun Devils, that's when you can see this offense really maximize its potential, and that's what we saw tonight. It really was just one of those games where more or less was really mistake-free. I mean, maybe things did not go as smoothly as possible, but nonetheless, Arizona State absolutely earned this win. It really was a great football game, period. A lot of ups and downs by both teams, but nonetheless, Arizona State is showing that all these close losses can finally turn into a win. It wasn't really that close of a win, but I would say a pretty dramatic one. But the Sun Devils really don't care. They finally got a game in the W column when it comes to Power 5 opponents and Pac-12 opponents.
So the ASU offense has struggled in a lot of weeks leading up to this game, but tonight that wasn't the case, as you mentioned, a really balanced attack. They had over 200 rushing yards. You really saw the presence of DeCarlos Brooks, Cam Scadaboo. Brooks had 3 touchdowns tonight, and on top of that, didn't count any turnovers. I counted about 2 punts. It was just a really clean look of the ASU offense.
Yeah, I think let's start by talking about the offensive line. And this offensive line was really maligned all year long, and I know part of it was simply just the injuries that just kept on mounting and mounting. But in the last couple of weeks, this offensive line has been getting healthier. And we were both in Seattle last week, and we talked about this offensive line really helping spring the ground attack for the Sun Devils. And tonight they obviously took it to a next level. I know some fans are wondering, well, why is Cam Scadaboo on the snap count? Why is he not starting games? Well, you're talking about a running back that is absolutely battered physically, but when he's in the game, he maximizes each and every snap. Take a look, at these stats. He needed only 11 carries to notch 121 yards. His longest run was 66 yards. And like you said, DeCarlos Brooks, and we talked about it this time last week, about Cam Scadaboo having DeCarlos Brooks complement him, and he had tonight 11 carries, 61 yards, 3 touchdowns scored. He had no touchdowns scored coming into tonight. So the rushing game was really clicking on all cylinders, but the passing game too. I mean, Trent Bourget did not have any touchdowns, but also did not have any interceptions. He was 19 of 26 for 274 yards. And you saw the quote-unquote usual suspects really come and have big games, no bigger than Jalen Conyers, 5 receptions for 90 yards. His longest reception was for 50 yards. So you're sensing a trend over here. You have a lot of explosive plays that were absolutely absent pretty much up until now. And they showed up and showed up a lot for the Arizona State offense. And, you know, lastly, Nick, you have to take advantage of the bad defenses in this conference. And maybe there are not a whole lot of them. And like we said, the month of November, I think, is filled with very, very stout defensive units. So why not take advantage of one of the worst defenses in the Pac-12? They were averaging 161 yards on the ground, 275 yards in the air. Arizona State eclipsed both of those averages. So they definitely took what the defense gave them, and really kudos for the Arizona State offense for, like you said, finally putting a complete game, a balanced attack.
So let's talk about the ASU defense now. Sure, they did give up an offensive touchdown this week, but making all the most crucial plays when it mattered most, when Washington State was deep in their half of the field, getting those stops and forcing field goals, and ultimately just allowing for the offense to outpace the Washington State offense.
Yeah, we talked about it in our preview, Nick. It was going to be an absolute incredible chess match between Brian Ward going against the offense that he was coaching against in practices in Pullman this time last year, and how he would adjust. Would he really change any approach? And really, on the other side of the coin, obviously, what is Washington State going to bring on offense to maybe really throw some curveballs at Brian Ward? I think in the first half, if you want to be honest about it, Washington State got somewhat the better of the ASU defense. Second half, the Cougars scored only 6 points, 2 field goals. That was absolutely huge. So give credit to Brian Ward for making the halftime adjustments, more importantly, making the in-game adjustments in the third and the fourth quarter. We can't say it enough. Arizona State has one hell of a defense coordinator on its staff, and even in a game which I think that he'll look back as probably the most challenging game, just because him and his staff were so familiar with each other, with the Washington State staff. I think Brian Ward did absolutely a masterful job. Again, maybe some hiccups in the first half, but second half, that was the ASU defense that we saw last week in Seattle. And when that ASU defense plays at that level, Nick, they're absolutely going to be in each and every game. And when they finally have the offense to complement them, and let's even give a good word to special teams to Dario Longetto. He did miss a 50-yarder, but did make a 51-yarder. No, this game was not decided on a game-winning field goal. I was wrong about that. But nonetheless, good to see him getting confidence, and really special teams in general definitely playing one of their better games. But again, Brian Ward, an absolute masterful job in the second half. We almost take it for granted because we see it almost every game, but you really can't take for granted what that unit is able to accomplish. They were really harassing Cam Ward quite a bit. Washington State still had 403 yards of offense. Cam Ward almost passed his average on the nose, 315 yards, and he showed how elusive he was. Brian Ward said that Cam Ward is more elusive even than USC quarterback Caleb Williams, and we saw it tonight in a big way. But again, when this defense had to come up down the stretch, it came up big. That's why Arizona State finally sees a Pac-12 game in the win column.
So the Sun Devils notching their long-awaited second win of the season. They're going to look to carry that momentum into next week's game at Utah. A very tough place to play. So what do you see that's on the to-do list for this ASU team as they hope to carry that momentum into a very tough environment?
Well, I think that the offense is definitely going to have to play at a high level against one of the best defenses in the Pac-12. We all know by now that Utah was defeated at home and defeated pretty soundly, 35-6 by Oregon. As much as I hate to say it, because I know no coach would say it out loud, there's almost no shame in having Oregon putting up a gazillion yards and 30-plus points on you, because that's been pretty much the norm in each of their games. I'm just kind of curious to see what kind of mindset Utah is going to come in this game, because now you have a contest where we thought, here's Utah still hosting ASU, battling for a spot in the Pac-12 championship. And now with that dream all but gone probably, how do they approach ASU, which now really has all the momentum in the world? But I think on offense, really just enhancing the passing game. I think the running game is doing just fine. We saw some flashes last week in Seattle. We definitely saw it on full display tonight against Washington State. But make no mistake about it, when you play against an absolute monster Utah defensive line and linebacker core, and that's really been the tradition up there in Salt Lake City, this running game is going to have to be more creative and, more importantly, really out-physical Utah, which is much easier said than done. In the passing game, I really didn't see too many gaffes. When you have guys like Elijah Badger, Jalen Conyers, Troy Meary playing as well as they are, if they can keep that effort and really give the Utah secondary a lot to think of as far as what kind of coverage to run, who to cover in certain downs and distances, I think that's something that really can go a long way. On defense, this is a Utah offense that did kind of okay without Cam Rising, and against Oregon, they really got exposed. And Oregon is a great defense, don't get me wrong. And even coming into tonight, they were above ASU in the national rankings. That's definitely going to be the case right now. But maybe they provided a blueprint that, with the level of coaching staff here in Tempe and the level of players that Arizona State has, maybe they can duplicate. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. We always talked about it's kind of hard to show progress when you're playing one of the better teams in the Pac-12, and maybe that's going to be the case this week in Salt Lake City. But again, you're talking about two teams that are coming into this game with whole different momentums, whole different mindset. I'm really curious to see if Arizona State can build on tonight. It might have not been a huge step, Nick, but a baby step in the right direction is better than the alternative.
Alrighty, well, for all the practice coverage and the preview content of this upcoming week against that Utah game, keep it locked in at DevilsDigest.com. Please drop a follow at Devils Digest on Twitter for all the top updates. For Hoderbino, my name's Nick Borgia. We appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you next time.